All right, now we're going to look at the wrap inner method. And basically, what wrap inner does is it takes whatever you have selected over here in the jQuery function, and it says wrap all of its contents in whatever we specify in this argument. So for example, we say h1 tags wrap inner, which in this case of our h1 tags, we just have these little text blocks in here. It's going to just wrap those in this p tag with the class of wrapped. I'm actually going to use this second one that I have here that also puts the text wrap on there just to make it a little bit more clear. So we'll uncomment that. Whoops. Probably helps if I use the wrap inner function, the one that we're talking about. So we uncomment that. All right. And basically what you would kind of expect, right? It's same thing as when we use this h1 wrap with that p tag with the class of wrapped, how it turned dark purple around the outside of the light purple, basically wrapping around the outside of it. What the wrap inner is doing is just taking the existing content and it wraps this around it. Now you can see the little text we had here that said wrap is now in front of the existing content. It's like a sibling of that now. And yeah, so basically what we would expect there. Again, using an HTML string to make a new element, but we can also do that with existing elements, kind of like we've been doing. So let's do the wrap inner with the selector tag h2. Again, not using the jQuery function over here. We're just passing in the selector tag. So we'll uncomment that, see what happens. Okay. So now we can see the inner content of this h1 is also wrapped in an h2 tag. Don't let these labels fool you a little bit. Okay, you might be looking at this and going h2 here, and where's like a closing h2 over here to say it's wrapped. These are just pieces of text that I put in there. They don't actually like directly correspond to the way those tags are kind of nested within each other. So don't worry too much about that. Just know that this h1 first child of first level, that was the original content that was in the h1 tag, and now you can see the yellow around that because it is wrapped in the h2 tag, and now these two chunks of text are just butted right up against each other because they both become siblings of this yellow h2 tag. We scroll down, oh, a little weird. And this is just the same thing that we were talking about back with the wrap function, where it's basically, it wraps this first h1 tag's content in an h2, and then it goes and clicks to the next thing on this loop, and then it looks for the first h2 tag, which is now up here at the top of the page, and it's this thing, and so it wraps this second h1 tag's content in this. And same thing with the third, and again, it doesn't pop these out of the flow. So we're kind of starting to demystify this a little bit, right? We can start to predict the behavior a little bit better. I didn't set up one here, but I'll just go ahead and do it really quick. We'll just do the same thing, kind of like we did with the wrap method, except we will put the jQuery function in there. All right, h2, 2. Right, so basically exactly what happened when we did it with wrap, right? It just takes this first one, it never comes back and like gets this one from the top because this thing has run its entire loop before this h1 loop jumps forward at all. So that's cool. We are starting to be able to predict some of this potentially weird behavior. We get how that's going to work. Which is kind of the goal. Lastly, we have this wrap all. And wrap all is kind of interesting because what it does is it takes every single element that we select up here in our jQuery function, and it wraps all of them together as a group. And so we'll use this H1 example here. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and put on our append and prepend. That way we can get some p tags going on. Right? So cool. So now we have some p tags on here. So now I'm going to use this first example. And this basically will select all the p tags and says wrap them all in another p tag. But it's going to wrap them all as a group. Like, well, how is that going to happen? Because we've got, some nested in here. We have some nested in here. We have some nested in things that are nested in things that are levels deeper. How is it going to get all these and wrap them? Well, what it does is it will take and wrap them all up to the first kind of like topmost level element here. So they're all going to be wrapped in this first H1 tag because the first H1 tag is the highest level up, kind of that ascendant descendant tree. And because it's the first one, it'll just use that. So it's going to pull them all in a group right up into here. So let's go uncomment this. Yeah. Whoa. Sorry about the edit again. Basically uncommented a wrap inner method when I meant to uncomment a wrap all method and didn't realize it and was sitting there like, I thought I understood this and now I don't think I do. Then I realized that I just did something totally stupid. So rather than remake the whole thing, I just decided to put a nasty edit in there. So anyway, back to wrap all. So this one is going to say all these P level elements, we're going to wrap them all together. All the P level elements wrapped together in a group, and they're going to be wrapped with this other P level element with the wrap all class. So again, the way it will group these together is it will basically just find the highest one up of whatever we select in here. So the first one that is the highest level in the ancestry tree, it will wrap everything to that, or wrap everything kind of in that position. So if we uncomment this, and there you go. So here is our prepend append. That was the two from the first H1 tag. And so right away you can see that this append used to be down below it. Once it gets wrapped as a group with this, now it doesn't matter anymore. It just pops it out and brings it up here. Same thing we have here, prepend, append, that's from the second H1 tag, prepend, append, that's from the third H1 tag, and if we go down, they are no longer there. So it's basically just taken those out from their original positions and grouped them all together at the position of the first highest level one of the things in our selector, which in this case is a p tag. So pretty cool. Kind of what we would expect. Let's do this. Let's wrap all of our H1 elements in H2 elements. So again, we're using something that is already on the page here by using this selector string over in the wrap all method. So we uncomment that. All right. All the H1s now are in a group together, and they are wrapped around by the first H2 element that was found. And again, so, before where we got some weird issues where it was kind of going back and grabbing a new H2 tag every time, and that kind of like changed the order of things. Well, it doesn't really matter here because it just takes all of those H1 elements and then wraps them all in the first H2 that it finds. So even if we were to use the jQuery function here, it would do the exact same thing. There would be no difference between the two because essentially this only needs to happen once. It just boom, 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 grabs those all, says wrap them in that first H2 that you find, and then that's it. There's no kind of like double looping thing happening here. So that's kind of cool. Just for fun, we'll say let's wrap all the divs together in an H2. So we have a div here, and we have a div here. So now what happens when we wrap them in an H2? Let's go up to the top, uncomment. Pretty much what you would expect. So the first H2 that it found, it wraps it. These are now wrapped together. So now notice that instead of this second level div being nested in this first level div, it's now a sibling of it. And they're wrapped again as a group. So it kind of breaks that whole descendant tree there. It just makes everything that it selects siblings. And pretty interesting. And then also we actually still have our first H2 heading here. But uncomment that. And lastly, let's just to kind of do some more crazy weird stuff, we will wrap all H2 elements in an existing H2 element. What the heck is going to happen there? Go down here. Well, there you go. It just grabbed this first H2 element, made a copy of that, and then wrapped these H2s in that H2. Also, kind of interesting to notice, and probably something we'll get into on a totally different video where we explore maybe some more quirks of like CSS or something. Notice what happens to these H2 tags when they're nested inside an H2 tag, right? So when you have an H2 inside of an H2, that font becomes a whole lot bigger. This is our default H2 font right here. But H2 inside of an H2 expands that. And we'll dig through that in another video. That's pretty interesting, but just something to note. So that is basically it. I might add some more kind of crazy stuff. If I can think of anything really cool at the end of this video, I might add a whole section of just like really trying to break stuff. Or I might not, in which this is like a huge letdown. But even if I don't do it in this video, I think I'll make some video at some point that is just explicitly trying to break the heck out of these things, because I think that's kind of fun. So, yeah.